Hi, Dr. Shah. Thank you so much for coming on the Art of Living Well podcast. Marty and I are really honored and excited for this conversation and all the insight that we know you're going to share with our listeners on a topic that we're very passionate about, longevity, and most importantly, improving our health span. And we first heard you on Dr. Drew Pruitt's podcast, who we love, and we just knew that you had to come on our show and share all the work that you're doing in the longevity space, and more importantly, how you're really helping people through your health optimization centers. So thank you so much for your time today.
I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited for this invitation and for this conversation.
Great. So one question we'd love to ask our guests before we really dive into the meaty topic here is, if you could treat yourself today to one thing and time and financial resources were no object, what would it be?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, I'm a big traveler. I love traveling. And there's these incredible wellness resorts and retreats out in Switzerland that I hear a lot about. And, just to be able to focus completely on yourself for a couple of weeks in those types of environments where basically there's no cell phones, there's just everyday good clean food, exercise, being out in nature. I would love that.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
I hadn't heard of any in Switzerland. That sounds magnificent.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough in college to spend, I did the backpacking thing through college, and my favorite time was through Switzerland. It is one of the most beautiful places. I always say it's like a little piece of heaven fell off and fell on earth and made Switzerland. It's just gorgeous. So it's a dream of mine. One of these days, I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. My brother actually is there hiking through Switzerland right now for 3 weeks. So I'm like so excited to hear about it.
Oh yeah, you got to look at the pictures. I'm so jealous to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, so we would love to hear from you some of the pivotal moments and insights from your career and how you started in Western medicine and then kind of moved into functional medicine and eventually came to build nexthealth. And maybe just in a nutshell, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. So, I trained in Western medicine almost 30 years ago now, and went through to your typical medical school. I was actually in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was lucky enough to get in right after high school. It's one of these special programs that don't exist anywhere except for Kansas City now, where you can come straight out of high school and do 6 years every summer, no breaks, and just finish medical school and college. So I was lucky enough to graduate.
Wow.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to graduate from medical school when I was 21 years old. And I remember doing my first surgery at the age of 21 as a surgical resident in California. And I was super young. I've always loved medicine, but I found this particular calling towards surgery just because of the immediacy of being able to help people. You're able to help people right away. And it was a little bit different than treating chronic disease, just because you're able to do a procedure, whether someone's hurt themselves or they have an infection in their gallbladder, for example, you're able to really help them in that moment. So I chose surgery as my career. I did that in multiple different pathways and specializations in surgery. I did trauma surgery, I did general surgery, cancer reconstruction surgery, and then finally I even did cosmetic plastic surgery. And during that career path of mine, as typically happens with a lot of physicians and particularly entrepreneurs, I'm also an entrepreneur. I started a large business opening surgical centers in California. I put myself kind of at the bottom of the priority stack as far as, there was business, there was family, and then me was like way at the bottom. And so I found myself about 10 years ago working 12 hours a day on the business or in the business in the operating room, and then another 6 hours a day on the business doing paperwork and managing employees and et cetera, et cetera. So I was working all the time, 7 days a week, not sleeping well because I was stressed, eating whatever I could find, whatever garbage was basically in the nurse's lounge, which is usually donuts and, those kind of things, and frappuccinos. And I found myself very sick 10 years ago. I was 40 pounds overweight, but worse than that, I had metabolic syndrome. I was hypertensive with blood pressure out of control and multiple medications. I had an autoimmune disease developing where I was losing this the tissue of my scalp and my skull was actually thinning due to this autoimmune disease, very weird syndrome that a lot of people didn't even, it was difficult to diagnose actually. And as many autoimmune diseases are. And I just thought to myself, like this is not going in the right direction, but I really had no reason to change kind of what I was doing because my primary care doctor told me, you're fine. Just, here's a couple more medications for your blood pressure. Here's an extra medication that'll suppress your immune system. So the autoimmune damage will be less visible. And, I told him I was like, not happy about this. He's like, well, here's some Prozac. That'll make you happy. And so, I'm on
That is pathetic.
I mean, I think this is a story a lot of us share, I think
Yes.
really a lot of us share this story. And, I'm on a handful of medications and I was lucky enough to have my first child at the age of 40. I thought, maybe I'd never have kids, but I did end up having a child, as life-changing moment is for all of us, right? And looking that happened 10 years ago, and it was a crazy event that happened. I went down to the surgeon's lounge. That's where I hang out in between surgeries after my wife had delivered the baby. Just because I had a key to it, I could go in there anytime. I was trying to find a donut, I think. And there was an article there in a journal that had the mortality rate if you have an autoimmune disease and metabolic syndrome put together, right? That's exactly what I had. Autoimmune disease, metabolic syndrome, uncontrolled hypertension, and they call them multiple medical diagnoses. And so if you looked at that mortality rate, I had a 50% chance of dying in the next 10 years. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to live long enough. I have a 50% chance of dying before my kid graduated from high school. That was a no-go for me. So that kind of incited my journey to change my life was that moment, that day, December 2nd, 2013.
And you clearly have that imprinted in your brain right now, just being such a pivotal moment.
Yeah, something you can forget,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what happened? Like what happened next after this big
Yeah.
aha moment?
So I, did typically what I think a lot of people do is you try to find better medical care. So I went down to Beverly Hills and hired a concierge medicine doctor, $15,000 a year to get me well. And they did a lot of tests and they basically said, look, like, yeah, things are off here. You have metabolic syndrome. There's a new medication for that. Why don't you try this one? Took it off the shelf. There's a new blood pressure medication. You could try this one as well. This one is like a combination of two other ones in one pill, so you can reduce your pills. And just like no advice around lifestyle changes at all, other than you should probably get some exercise and lose some weight. Which is what every doctor tells their patient, I think, all the time. It's like a script, right? But no real concrete evidence or advice to give me to really turn things around, right? Because I think our Western medical society Western medical training is really built around finding the disease and treating that disease with a pill or with surgery. There's very little into turning things around or prevention in the first place. And so I, at that moment, said, this is not how I want this to go. So I ended up taking it upon myself to start self-educating myself in the science of nutrition and the science of exercise, which then led me down. And we get zero of that in traditional Western medical training. So I actually went and got a nutrition degree. I got a degree in exercise physiology, a training degree, just because I just love to learn. And this is like, it's one of those things that if I have like a goal in mind that I can get a certificate or something, I'll just go down that pathway, And so anyhow, I happened on this new field of medicine that was just kind of getting some attention called functional medicine 10 years ago. And back then it was just kind of, bubbling up. It wasn't a real big deal, but I think I went to one of the first few like training sessions in functional medicine that had ever occurred 10 years ago. And wow, opened my eyes to root cause medicine, completely changed my life. Within 8 months, I was able to get off so many of my medications, lose 30 pounds, and just feel so much better, have energy back, brain fog cleared, feel like a human again, And so I was like, why are we not practicing medicine this way? What is going on? I talked to my concierge doctor about it. There's a lot of, I would say, negativity and resistance to even hearing what I had to say about it. Like it's not
Yep.
a real, it wasn't real medicine, you
Oh,
know?
yep.
And so at that moment in time, I decided like, look, this is the kind of medicine I want to practice. So I decided I'm going to wind down my surgical career, hire other surgeons to take over my spot in the business, and I'm going to do something new. And so I did it over the course of the next 5 years, where I stopped doing surgery. I opened nexthealth, which, we started in a tiny little office here in West Hollywood. It was a 1,200 square foot office here on Sunset Boulevard. And we had no idea what we were doing. We're just like, I'm just going to practice this kind of medicine, and I'm going to buy some things that people are talking about, like they want to do, like cold therapy and sauna. I'm just going to see what happened. And like every new business, you kind of learn from your mistakes, and you grow. And within a year, we were so busy that we were needing to open a second location, a third location, and now we've grown to where we're opening over 30 locations in the next couple of years. So turns out people really want this type of medicine practice. It turns out this is really speaking to people, and we're developing the clinical base to be able to practice really good functional root cause medicine combined with this new incredible field of longevity medicine, all combined, because they really do go hand in hand throughout the United States and the world. We're opening in Dubai, Australia, Canada as well.
That is so amazing. We need one in Minnesota. So maybe Stephanie and I should talk to you about that.
Let's do
So
it.
are they all functional medicine MDs that are working in this place, or do you have all different people,
Yes.
different backgrounds?
Mostly it's a functional medicine or integrative medicine trained MDs that'll be doing this. But, I think a lot of doctors now, they are getting very disillusioned, like I did with the traditional medical training, and they're going into this in addition to their primary training. So you see psychologists, internal medicine doctors, you're seeing OBGYNs, all getting this training because it just speaks to them that this is the way we wanted to practice. This is what we want to do. I think a lot of people are negative about the medical career and their doctors because all they get is pills. I was one of those people as well, but it just happened because that's the way our medical training developed in this country, and how Western medical training developed is you're treating illnesses by making a diagnosis and then with a prescription. And so this new form of medicine is really speaking to a lot of physicians. And so you'll see a variety of different practitioners, even urologists are getting into it. They're so happy because it combines the Western medicine with the functional medicine, and the two of those together are so powerful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we want to dive into this, but just a quick note, do you see pediatricians getting into this?
Absolutely. And we need more pediatricians in this field because, our children are sick, right? Our children are getting sicker and sicker at a younger and younger age, and it's horrible. It's so heartbreaking to see this. And a lot of doctors are trained in adult medicine. We don't feel comfortable treating children just because it's very different. So seeing pediatricians get into this is so incredible. And I'm hoping there comes a day where every pediatrician learns functional medicine, because if you could start at an earlier age, then we will change the world. We will change the way medicine is practiced in the world. A dream of mine is to add a chapter to every high school biology textbook about health and how to be healthy, right? Why
100%.
don't we learn this in high school?
Exactly. I mean, it's just understanding your own body too.
Right.
So, and Marnie, we're actually interviewing someone in a couple of weeks who's a functional medicine trained pediatrician. So there is
amazing
hope out there.
Yes.
So let's just dive right in. I mean, we know our listeners are dialed into longevity. They, a lot of them are middle-aged. They're kind of feeling a little sluggish. Maybe they have like real diagnoses and real chronic illnesses, but a lot of them just want to be able to like run around with their grandchildren and live to see their kids graduate and have grandchildren, like kind of your vision. So what's the 3-step process that a person should go through to stay healthy and have that long, healthy life, not just live a long time, but have that high quality of life?
Right. So we, at nexthealth, what I created over time was, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of patients, and it gets really overwhelming for people, right? Because there's so much information out there. There's so many different aspects of your health that we need to talk about. And you really have to to break it down for people and meet them where they're at, right? In their health journey, with how much they're willing to learn, how much they're willing to add to their lifestyle. And because you can't put everyone on 80 supplements and tell them go to the gym every single day and wear 10 different biometric sensor devices, right? It's not going to work. I mean, it
No.
works for some biohackers, right?
Yeah, right,
Most
exactly.
people,
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
yeah.
So I really start off when I sit down with a patient, I start off first, we talk about things that are not even health related. First, we talk about mindset, right? I feel that if your mind is not in the right place to begin a health journey, you're going to just trip over yourself. You're going to become demotivated. And so what I mean by mindset is a few different things. One is to have kind of a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. You have to believe that you can make changes, and you have to believe that you are a healthy, happy individual, and that's where you want to be, that you're not stuck in the life that you live right now. The second thing I talk about with my patients is I really get them to become experts in habit formation. And this is a key skill for every human to have.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that most people do not have this skill. And and unfortunately, we're all really good at forming bad habits, but the good habits are really hard to make and to keep. And so I give kind of an instructional course on habit formation to my patients. And the third thing I do with every single patient is I tell them, I want you to stop outsourcing your health to the medical system. You need to take personal responsibility for your health. You need to become the CEO of your health. You need to become the boss of your biology. And here's how you're going to do it. And we make it really analog for people. It can even be a notebook or a spreadsheet. I tell them, here are the 10 biomarkers that you need to learn about. You need to know what they mean. You need to know where you're at, and you need to know where you need to be. And we're going to talk about over the course of our relationship how we're going to change things in the right direction, right? And so once people are empowered with those three kind of basic fundamental skill sets, then we can launch in on their health journey. And that's kind of how we start people.
I think that's so key, what you said, especially the mindset. So many people want to jump right in with like a quick fix or a bunch of supplements or a biohacking tool, and they're not ready.
No,
Yeah, that's
totally.
amazing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Every
even
time, oh, I'm so
go
sorry.
ahead.
Every time I
No.
see anyone just dive right in and just skip the mindset part, it lasts maybe a month, maybe
Right.
2 at the most, and then it just stops, right?
Mhm.
Well, and I love how you said becoming an expert in habit formation, because again, if you can't maintain these healthy habits, like you said, you're going to fall off after a couple months.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm wondering about those biomarkers that you mentioned. Can you talk about like what they are? Maybe you mentioned there's a lot of them. You don't have to talk about the most important ones, or maybe they're all important, and how a person should go about obtaining those biomarkers and how much they need to understand about them and how they can like help them.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Marnie. So first of all, I just want to say, like, there are thousands of different biomarkers out there, but as an individual, you only really need to know about 10. And so these biomarkers exist either in blood work, or they exist on a special scale that I have people buy. I have people get a blood pressure cuff because that's an often ignored biomarker as well, and maybe a couple of other things. And for the people that I find most people are now a little bit more advanced, and they're willing to wear some sort of biometric tracking device, like an Aura Ring or a Whoop Band or a Fitbit or even their Apple Watch. There you go. I got mine
Yeah.
on too. Right, exactly. And but if they're not willing to go that far, we just start off with like, here's some blood tests we're going to do, and here's this bioimpedance scale I want you to get. I have people buy the InBody H20N. That's my favorite bioimpedance scale.
Well, I
And
don't even know what a bioimpedance scale is.
that's one of those scales that, when you stand on it, it sends an electrical current through your body and it tells you what your body fat percentage is.
I've used them before, like at gyms and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, you can buy this for your house. They're like $80, one of the best
Really?
investments you will ever make. Yeah, the InBody H20N. They don't pay me anything to say this. This is just, I've never even talked to the company, but this is just my favorite. I just love it because it has
And
a
they
hand.
work?
They work pretty good. Yes, absolutely. Now, look, everything, I would say that this one is particularly accurate because it has handlebars, so it sends two currents through your body.
Yeah.
However, it's really not how exactly on point the number is. It's about following the directionality of it, right?
Mhm.
And that's also true for your blood biomarkers, right? And that's also
Yeah.
true for your blood pressure. So you really want to start there and then really just analog track these over time. And what I mean by that is the Aura Ring does a great job of having an app to do it, but your blood test is really not a great tracking mechanism. So I give people a spreadsheet, just a Google Doc. And I say, I want you to track it on there and type in the numbers yourself so you know what they are and you memorize them. My goal with my patients is to have them memorize their numbers. So every time if I see them at a restaurant, I can be like, what's your hemoglobin A1C? And you know,
Wow.
and so, yeah, blood biomarkers, I would say there's like 5 to 8 that everyone needs to be following. And I would say that at least on a quarterly basis, because just like anything in life, right? If you veer off for months and years at a time, it's so much harder to recover. But if you catch these things in 3 months, you're going to recover so much faster, right? And so we have people follow biomarkers such as hemoglobin A1C, which is a 3-month average of your sugar levels. If we can get it, we'll get an insulin level, which is an even better marker. We have them follow their triglyceride levels as well. And, if they can get an ApoB, which is a sum total of all of the bad forms of cholesterol, we do that. If not, we just focus on LDL, which is not the best one to follow, but it's a good proxy. And then we have them follow their HSCRP, which is their inflammation level. And if they're a little bit older, like I would say 40 plus, we're following hormone markers as well. And the hormone markers we'll do less frequently, maybe every 6 months or a year, unless we're trying to make a change. And we just start like real simple right there. Now with the scale, we have people I weigh myself daily. A lot of patients weigh themselves daily as well. It's like that constant feedback loop of, oops, yesterday was a little bit of a cheat day. I need to like take it back a little bit, but at least once a week. And look, I totally recognize everyone's different. There are some people that can't look at a scale without getting anxiety, without feeling bad about themselves. And I get it. Then we take that one off the table, right? We want to meet people where they're at again. And then we slowly add things in. And then lastly, I would say that blood pressure cuff is so important. Blood pressure is being diagnosed at a younger and younger age now. I have patients in their 20s with hypertension. Hypertension is a
Wow.
silent killer. Yeah.
Wow.
Silent killer. People don't understand that this is present in their body for years, and you really need to be close to 120 over 70 because any 10 points higher than that increases your chance of mortality by 10%. So you want to be really cognizant about your blood pressure. So we start there. There's other things we do in a full testing package, but we could talk about that separately. Yeah.
Okay. Well, these markers are helpful because a lot of people can get them at their doctor, even a Western traditional doctor. I mean, Marnie and I both know that the hormones are sometimes challenging, especially for women, because we do functional medicine lab testing in our own private health coaching businesses. But, I know of 2 people recently that had no signs from blood work and recently had either a stent put in with like significant blockage in major arteries or open heart surgery with no like early warning signs. So would these markers that you're referring to and taking your blood pressure daily help with that from a preventative standpoint?
100%.
Versus what someone's doing, like even if you're getting an annual physical with whatever markers that a traditional doctor would recommend.
Yes. So let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Because I could pretty much bet you that your friends had LP little a. Are you familiar with what LP little a is?
Is
I'm
that the
not.
size of the?
No.
No.
So
Okay.
LP little a is a it's a genetic condition where there's a certain form of cholesterol that is super atherogenic, okay? And so this cholesterol will build up in your artery walls and in your blood valves and even in your aorta. And it's highly atherogenic and it causes a lot of calcified plaques as well because your body's immune system goes crazy trying to fight it. Unfortunately, LP little a is massively underdiagnosed because it's not picked up in your traditional cholesterol panels. ApoB does pick it up. ApoB combines LP little a, LDL, VLDL, et cetera. 20% of people have LP little a and they don't even know it. And so, like you said, they have traditional cholesterol panels, everything looks fine. No one's checked an ApoB. All of a sudden, they have massive coronary blockages and valve issues. And this is
Yeah.
because of Lp(a). So every person out there, I hope all your listeners, demands that their doctor check an Lp(a) level at least once. If you know it's normal, then it's not going to elevate later. It's just a genetic thing. Okay.
Okay.
Huh.
But if
So
you
if-
have it, you got to be super careful.
If you have your genetic testing done, does it show up on there?
No, it does not.
It
No.
does not.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. It does not show up on specific gene tests. You have to measure the blood biomarker called Lp(a).
I feel like APOE or something. Isn't there another genetic thing that sounds like APOB, but it's
Yes.
APOE?
Yeah. All these
I'm like,
letters are so confusing. So what you're talking about, Marnie, is ApoE.
yeah,
ApoE
okay.
is a genetic marker that signals Alzheimer's disease. Okay.
So that's
this
different from ApoB.
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different from
Good to
ApoB.
clarify.
ApoB is a blood marker, right? Exactly. ApoE is a genetic test. ApoB is a blood marker.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
problem.
Well, that's really good information to have. And would most doctors run it if you just put the request in and ask them? People shouldn't have an issue with their doctors.
I would hope so. I would
Okay.
hope so. And if your doctor is going to fight you on it, do some research on it and print out, an article on it. There's a million articles on it.
Yeah.
And they still say no, it's time to find a new doctor.
Yes. Okay.
I will tell you it's time to find a new doctor because this person is stuck in the Stone Ages and they are not keeping up with the newest information out there.
Yep.
Which I think is a lot of doctors, unfortunately.
Well, look, I was trained 30 years ago, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, especially once you specialize, you end up just going down a rabbit hole of specialized knowledge, and all the conferences you go to, you just learn one little tiny thing and that's all you learn, right? And that's
Right.
why
Yeah.
that functional medicine training really opened up my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you. I have heard you talk about this on other podcasts, and I think that it's really important for everybody out there to hear. But what does prolonged sitting do to us as humans, and how does that affect our mortality rate?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so when I speak with, I'm going to take it back a little bit, Marnie, if you don't mind, just so we can kind of talk about this conceptually more.
Yeah.
So, of course, we all need to know we focus on the basics, right? The basic pillars of health are going to be your nutrition, your movement, and your sleep and your stress, right? Those are the four basic pillars. And on each one of those pillars, I always focus on the Pareto principle. And the reason I do this is because there's so much information out there and everyone's getting so inundated with constant, Instagram posts and influencers and what doctors say and, whiplash reading the news about these things, eat eggs one day, don't eat eggs the next day, right? And so people are so confused that they get paralysis by overanalysis. So what is a Pareto principle? Focus in on the 20% of the information that will give you 80% of the result. For in each one of those pillars, there is 2 or 3 things that we can point to and say, if you do this, this will make the most difference for you. So in the exercise and movement pillar, believe it or not, exercise is not that important compared to not being sedentary. And these are 2 completely different things that people need to get their head wrapped around. Mm-hmm. Being sedentary means you're in one position for 4 hours or more. And after 4 hours of sedentary, like sitting, you add for every hour a 10% increased chance of mortality. Okay. So if you're sitting for 5 hours, you've added 10%. If you're sitting for 6 hours, you added 20%. A lot of people sit for 8 hours a day at work every single day, and they're giving themselves a 40% increased chance of mortality just by that sitting. Okay. So once again, the Pareto principle is focus on that. And I don't care if you go to the gym for an hour a day, right? Every single day. I don't care if you're doing your strength and your VO2 max and all these other things that you're doing. If you're sitting 8 hours a day at work, you are decreasing your longevity, even if you are exercising. So what's the cure to that? The cure to that is what's called exercise snacks. And this is something in the research is really being talked about a lot now, where every 30 to 45 minutes, you want to get up and just move around for 5 minutes. Okay. And if you can do that, you're going to totally counteract the negative effect of being sedentary. And so take an exercise snack every 45 minutes. So what's an easy way to implement this in your life? Go online, buy an egg timer, set it put it next to your desk. I have one that looks like a little silver egg. Turn it to 45. Every 45 minutes it goes off. I get up, move around. Sometimes I'll do some air squats. Sometimes I'll pick up a dumbbell, but most of the time I just get up and just move around, or I'll do a phone call or something. And then you've counteracted that negative effect of sedentary behavior. Now, with some patients, you could take it up an even a larger amount. So some patients actually do a 5-minute exercise routine and get their heart rate up in that 5-minute break. Some people I've actually convinced to get a walking desk, which is my favorite, one of my favorite life hacks is a walking desk.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of the talk I have with people on sedentary behavior is you absolutely have to eliminate it from your life. And once you do that, you've significantly affected your longevity.
What if you're standing at your desk? Is it better?
It's better, but not great. Okay. Because also standing, you're not moving your calf muscles, so you're not moving blood. And so your blood is getting kind of sedentary. And so a lot of people will end up getting varicose veins and knee issues from standing for a long period of time. So walking is much better than standing all the time. Now, if you stand and sit and stand and sit, that's probably a good compromise in between. But standing for the full day is also not good.
Okay.
I mean, I just find this is a big issue for most people that are sitting at their desk. And honestly, the pandemic, as much as, for a while it was nice because we were outside moving, it's made it worse because people aren't even going to I've had clients tell me, well, I used to walk to my car, to the parking garage and go out for lunch and, and move. And now I'm just at my desk for 8 to 10 hours. So I think the walking treads are amazing. I actually got one just a couple months ago and I love it.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great solution for people, especially if you live somewhere where it's not beautiful weather most months out of the year and it's hard to get outside.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
you think about how we were evolved as humans. We weren't sitting, our bodies, we're not designed to, eat how we do and sit all day. So it's just getting back to the basics.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you look at humans throughout evolution, the reason humans are all over the world and we moved around so much is because we moved around so much, right? So
Right.
humans are a walking species. They traveled, humans started in one place and traveled all over the globe just walking it. And so we were walking every single day. Our ancestors were walking every single day all the time.
And if you look at other countries, so I just got back, a week or so ago from being in France with my family. And that's the one thing every time you go to Europe, they're all walking all the time in their suits. It doesn't matter after dinner, and it makes a huge difference. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you also talked about sleep, and that's something we've talked a lot about on our podcast, but you mentioned that being one of these 4 pillars. So why is sleep one of the 4 pillars when it comes to longevity in particular?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the data on sleep, I mean, it's irrefutable. There's so much evidence that a lack of sleep leads to a much higher risk of Alzheimer's disease, cardiovascular disease. In fact, if you just go to the CDC website, pull up the top 10 causes of death, every single one of them you can attribute to a lack of sleep. Okay. And so sleep is a fundamental need that our biology has, not just our brain, our entire biology. And every cell in our body requires sleep to function appropriately for the next day. And if you are not sleeping, either because of your own intentional actions or for unintentional actions, right? There's a lot of reasons people are not sleeping. One of the biggest ones is sleep apnea, right? You are definitely not only reducing your longevity, but you're also reducing your health span by a lot. And what I mean by that is you will have a much higher chance of finding yourself frail with Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia and metabolic disease way earlier in life than you will if you are sleeping appropriately.
It's so interesting because I'm a big sleeper. I like my sleep and I make it a priority. My husband does not. And my teenage children think that it is a badge of honor to stay up late like their dad. And I keep telling them that the sleep is so important. Like my daughter just came home for a day off at sleepaway camp. She's working there and she's like, yeah, I went to bed at 4 a.m. and I got up at 7 and I'm doing just fine. And I'm like, oh, God, this is not good for you. And I just worry so much about these cumulative effects that it's going to have on their lives with this sleep hygiene that they clearly aren't listening to their mom about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially in teenagers need somewhere between 10 to 12 hours of sleep. I mean, they need more
Right.
sleep because they're in a massive state of brain and physical growth. And I think, one thing that you can kind of tell your teenage kids is that they're shortchanging their brain from their brain potential and their muscle from their muscle potential by not getting enough sleep. And so they're literally going to be less smart and have
Yeah.
less physical health if they don't sleep. So, and it's especially important between the teenage years up to the age of, mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can share this podcast with them, Marnie.
Oh, I will.
Yeah. So, Dr. Shah, can we dive in and talk about Next Health? I know you mentioned it. There are these facilities that you have that you're now franchising around the world, but it's really a first of its kind, like health optimization center. So different from even other clinics that have dabble in a little bit of this and even in the functional medicine space. Can you share with our listeners what you offer and
For
this
sure, I'd
unique
love to.
approach?
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do this. So I love, Next Health because for me, it's really the culmination of everything I'd want to do in a doctor's office. And so first thing is that it's not a doctor's office. When we decided to make Next Health, we decided to do all the things that doctors' offices are doing wrong and do the exact opposite. So number one is, most people go to their doctor once a year, right? Or maybe once a year plus when they're sick. We are built for people to come in on a weekly basis, if not even daily, if they want to. So we're located in places where it's easy to get to. We're not in the 20th floor of a building that requires, you to invest in parking and this and that. Like, it's easy to get to us. We're in lifestyle centers. Most doctors' offices, not all, but most are, the furniture is from the 80s and they're like dingy and a lot of sick people around. Ours are beautiful locations. They're large, they're inviting. We call it the Apple Store of Wellness to kind of give you like a mental picture of it. And the reason we do that is we want it to be a fun, inspiring place to go to. And so basically the entire process at Next Health is once you become our patient, we'll do a full blood test or biomarker testing on you. And we have different levels of that. And you'll sit down with the functional physician and go over your results and kind of see where you need to focus, right? And so then we have this entire methodology that we use called the wellness wheel. And I can send you a copy of this, but basically it's 12 different aspects of your health. And our goal is to take you through these 12 aspects of your health over the course of the year. So we have fully addressed every aspect of your health. And during that time, though, we want you to come in and utilize the technology that we have on site. So on site, we have things like cold therapy. We have heat therapy with a sauna. We have hyperbaric oxygen. We have full body LED beds. We have IV therapy. We have ozone therapy. So all these cool things that you can do on a more frequent basis to really affect your biology. We even do IV therapy, like things like IV NAD and IV nutrient drips. And we have people coming in more often because they sometimes just get addicted to it. You feel incredible when you're doing some of these things. And I think the technology has something to do with it, but also the mindset. Like, now you're actually spending an hour focusing on your health once a week, and you're in this self-care routine that gets people really excited and jazzed about their health, which is kind of the opposite of going to the doctor, right? Like, you dread going to the doctor. So that's kind of the big picture around Next Health. And every facility is tied in with a physician. So you and an advanced practice person, someone like a nurse practitioner or a PA. We also have health coaches and nutritionists that work with us as well. So there's a lot you can do to affect your day-to-day health and not just treat disease. And we are in California and Southern California and Los Angeles, and also in New York right now, but we're opening all over the country.
And do you take insurance, or is this something where people have to pay out of pocket?
Sadly, insurance covers none of this.
Okay.
And hopefully one of
That's
these
really
days.
sad, because that makes
Yeah.
the population of people that are coming to do this, very obviously targeted.
Right. Well, the way I like to think about it is that, we try to have really affordable packages for people. And we have memberships that it's a membership-based business. So we have memberships as low as a couple $100 a month. And a lot of people are spending that on gym memberships and other things, And so
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people like, this is something that absolutely, I totally agree. It's another expense in your life, but it's an expense that's going to really impact all the other aspects of your life positively when you focus in on your health. And we should, as a society, get used to spending some money on our health. We need to spend some time, energy, and money on our health and not just assume that insurance and the Western medical system is going to take care of it, right? We need to
That
change that mindset.
absolutely.
Well,
No, that's true. That's
and
very
we
true.
all spend money frivolously. A lot of people do, or on the bad habits you mentioned earlier. And Marty and I have recently had a few conversations with guests on Ozempic. We've launched like a 3-part series. And one of the things we talked about was, well, you could spend $1,000 to $1,300 on a pill, or what you're doing.
It's a shot.
A membership.
Yeah.
A shot. Sorry. Yes, I know that, a shot.
Yeah.
So there are choices that we can make as well.
Yeah, or
And
how about you skip the Frappuccino every morning, right? The
Right.
$10 Frappuccino.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other thing it sounds like you've done at Next Health is it's almost like a community, which is something that people are really craving.
yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. I'll tell you a quick story. So before, in the first location that we had, we used to do these things called Forefront Fridays, how to stay on the forefront of all the health knowledge. And it was where people would come to our location and I would give a talk, or we'd have a nutritionist or dietitian give a talk. And it was amazing because a community that developed from that. People set up WhatsApp groups to help each other in their health journey.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, the pandemic kind of put a stop to that. And we just recently started up again with these wellness lectures. And I'm so happy to do it because another thing to be successful in this is to have a community wrapped around all of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So just like a couple quick rapid fire questions, but what do you think about full body MRIs? And Stephanie alluded to this, but what are your thoughts on the GLP class 1 drugs? Those are two very different things, but I'm curious about both of them.
I have a lot of thoughts. So let's talk about full body MRI. I think MRI technology is one of the most advanced and one of the most game-changing technologies ever introduced to medicine. That we are so lucky to live in a time that we have MRIs, right? Now, what's even more incredible is it's becoming so cheap and so ubiquitous to do this exponentially. Okay, so yes, it's not affordable to everybody right now, but just like genetic testing, which was $100,000 a genome sequence, which now you can do it for like $100. MRI is going to be the same way. It's going to be everywhere and it's going to get cheaper and cheaper. Okay. MRI also has zero radiation, so we don't have to worry about the side effects of MRI. And we can pick up a lot of things in MRI that you can't pick up until it's too late. And what do I mean by too late? Meaning it's symptomatic. Symptomatic means your body finally feels it and tells you, hey, there's something going on here. I always give the analogy that if the full body MRI was around when Steve Jobs had developed his cancer, he would probably still be alive today, because pancreatic cancer is one of those things that's very difficult to find until it's too late. Right. And so I think full body MRI will one day hopefully become a mainstay of everyone's health routine. And I'm a big fan of it, with some caveats. Okay. Number one, it's very expensive. So there's a million other things I'd rather you spend your money on before you get a full body MRI. Right. Okay. Now, after you do those things, if you can still do the full body MRI, then you should probably think about it. Secondly, there is a rate of what we call incidental findings, right? And incidental findings are findings that kind of send you down a little bit of a rabbit hole of diagnostics to really see if it's something that's worth treating or not treating. What I would say about that is that, number one, in my experience, we found more significant things that needed treatment than incidental findings by far. But I would say that if you're one of those people that you can't stand to have a diagnosis even for a month or so until we figure it out, don't do it, because you will drive yourself nuts once you get it. Because it does take time in your typical Western medical system to find out what this finding is, right? You have doctor's appointments, additional scans that are needed, and then all those things are slow in the regular Western medical system. So that's kind of big picture, my feeling on full body MRI. A lot of people ask me, how often should I do it? I would say, like, once again, if you spent all your money on the other things and you still have money left over for in your health budget, do it maybe once every couple of years. And there's a lot of companies doing it now. Companies like Pernuvo are out there that are doing full body MRIs. They're located in many cities as well. And I think it's going to be, like I said, a mainstay of preventative medicine.
Yeah. And it sounds like then you really, because I hadn't thought about that point, because I'm curious and would love to get one at some point. But if you don't have the right support structure in place and people to talk to, one, like, so you don't go down the rabbit hole unnecessarily, but the follow-up tests, because that could really like mess with your mind if you're then like all worried about a potential finding or something.
So happy to mention that, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people are just signing up for full body MRIs on their own and just going to do them. They haven't even talked to their doctor about it. They don't have that support system. Like, if we find something, what are we going to do? Right.
Right.
Maybe they don't even have a doctor, right? They're just like signing up for these full body MRIs.
Yeah.
They don't even have a doctor, right? You're going to need someone to help you sort through things once you get this done. So you better be prepared, right? It's like buying a stick shift car and no one out there to teach you how to drive it, right?
So would you say most of these MRIs come back with some incidental findings?
No, in fact, most do not come back with
Okay.
findings.
Okay.
It's rare.
But it happens.
But you have to be
percentage of
prepared for it in the
For it.
event that it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
exactly.
good counsel.
Yeah. You want to talk about GLP-1s for a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm just so incredibly awed by medical technology and kind of the direction that it's taking. And I want to give people a little bit of context about GLP-1s because this is a peptide, and peptides are kind of small segments of hormones that mimic what our body's hormones do. Okay, so this is very different than a drug. A drug is a chemical compound that has a lot of different side effects from that chemical compound. These are actually peptides are actually doing things that we have hormones in our body kind of doing the same thing, and GLP-1 is one of them, right? And so we figured out how to isolate this effect of this particular peptide to help with diabetes and weight loss, right? And so I think that it is a very useful medication for diabetes, 100%. It's also going to be a very useful medication for things like sleep apnea and even cardiovascular disease, because all of these diseases have their roots in metabolic disease, okay? And metabolic disease leads to all these other diseases, Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease, all of it. So if we can figure out kind of at a root level how to affect metabolic disease, we're going to prevent all diseases, and these GLP-1s are one way to do it. Okay. So with that being kind of the background, definitely, I think it's going down the wrong pathway as far as how people are talking about it, how people are using it. It's become like this quick fix Hollywood cure to losing a few pounds. And that's definitely the wrong way to think about it, right? And so the cautions I would have for people is, if you are getting on a GLP-1 for weight loss, you will, just like if you stop eating, you're going to lose muscle and you're going to lose fat. Loss of muscle is probably one of the worst things you could do to your body. Losing muscle strength and losing muscle mass also leads to all forms of diseases, right? So you are actually taking these GLP-1s to lose weight, but you're actually increasing your risk of disease by taking these GLP-1s by losing muscle mass. So if you get on a GLP-1 for weight loss, you must hyper focus on strength and protein intake, and make sure you're working with a really good health coach or nutritionist to really help you manage this whole process. Most people are not armed with the knowledge to take them through a GLP-1 journey effectively. If you arm yourself with a teammate, a nutritionist, a doctor, or a health coach, you're going to have an incredibly successful journey through GLP-1, because they're going to make sure that there is a goal in mind for fat loss, for muscle mass and muscle strength. And we're going to aim for that goal very mindfully. We're going to change your diet around so you're protein forward. And then once you get to that goal, we're going to have a plan to get you off of these, because you don't want to be on these forever, right? Yeah. And so I think that's how you want to think about these GLP-1 medications.
I love that. I think you explained that so well, because I mean, just in the last week, I have talked to numerous people that are using these to lose like 10, 15 pounds. And I'm like, oh boy, like that is not going to be good for you in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I think a lot of those people, they get kind of like into this dependence on it, unfortunately, like this mental dependence, like, oh, I'm getting another 10 pounds. I'm just going to do my Ozempic again now, and it's just, they're not using it as an opportunity to change their lifestyle and their
Lifestyle.
habit. Exactly. Look, it's an incredible opportunity to change your lifestyle around, right? It kind of gives you a push in the right direction, but you have to use it as an opportunity to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before about it's like you need the prescription for the Ozempic, and then you need a prescription for the health coach or nutritionist or some other professional that's going to help you make those changes. So,
Yeah.
And the
well,
desire to make the changes. Because the people I know don't really have the desire to make the changes. They're happy that they're not hungry. And if they are hungry, they're eating donuts and shit because they can.
yeah, yeah.
Breaks your heart, right?
Yeah.
So I guess on that note, and I mean, I'll ask this question with the thought that obviously we're all unique in bioindividuality and there's no one size fits all protocol, but based on all your years of experience and what you're seeing at Next Health, if there were like, what are your top suggestions when it comes to nutrition, even supplements, and maybe movement that apply to most people, right? Not everyone, but that could really help individuals improve their health span? What would be your tips, practical suggestions, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use a Pareto principle again. So I'm going to give you the 20% of the info that is going to drive 80% of the result for most people.
Yeah.
On the nutrition front, the most important thing you can do is not focus on what you should be eating, is focusing on what you need to cut out of your diet, and that is ultra processed food. I don't care what you eat. If you cut ultra processed food out of your diet, you're going to be massively healthier. Ultra processed foods, you have to really understand what the definition of that is. It's not just, McDonald's. There's a lot of ultra processed food. It takes up 90% of the real estate in every single supermarket. And you just got to know what it is and work with a health coach, nutritionist to really guide you through that process. Ultra processed food also comes in the form of liquid, in the form of sodas. It comes in the form of things that are made to look healthy, because a lot of these ultra processed food companies will trick you into believing that something is healthy when it's not. And so learning that before you focus in on the number of grams per kilogram of carbs you should be eating and all of that, eliminate the ultra processed food is going to make massive difference in your health. On the exercise front, I think we talked about eliminating the sedentary behavior. That's number one for everybody. But secondly, I would say really having a focus on strength training. This is something that most people miss, especially as we age. We're programmed to reduce muscle mass as we age, unfortunately, and having good muscle mass and good muscle strength is incredibly important to preventing all the diseases of aging. And you'll just feel so much better with good muscle mass, and you'll automatically lose weight. On the sleep front, I think we hit on a couple of topics there. My Pareto principle on sleep is if you have sleep apnea, the number one thing you have to do in your life is get it treated, either with a surgery or with weight loss or with doing a CPAP device at home. How do you know if you have sleep apnea? You're snoring a lot at night. Your partner's waking you up because you're snoring and you're bugging them, or you keep gasping for air in the middle of the night, and you wake up tired, or you wake up like you're tired within an hour of waking up. I think this is true for about 30% of the people out there, and they have no idea that they have sleep apnea, and they are just marching towards metabolic disease, Alzheimer's disease, all sorts of problems. So treat that first, and then get your sleep routine and your sleep environment fixed. I think on those three pillars, those three pillars, those are the things that I would just quick focuses. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Those
and
are
I have a quick
amazing
question for
tips.
you. What about alcohol?
Yeah,
What's your
let's talk
view on
about
this?
alcohol.
We're
Okay.
like, let's get it all in here.
I know.
Yeah, I'm very realistic about alcohol with my patients, because once again, you have to meet people where they are. And so
Yeah.
if you ask most doctors, like, just don't drink, and that's not going to work for, I would say, everyone falls somewhere in the bell-shaped curve of people. In the middle of the bell-shaped curve, most people are not going to stop drinking. So how do you drink and make it so that it's not going to affect your biology as much? There's a few simple rules I have there. One is you want to minimize the amount of sugar that you're intaking with your alcohol. And you can do that by not getting mixed drinks. Mixed drinks are laden with sugar, and avoiding white wines and high sugar content wines. So if you're drinking wine, try to steer towards red and try to see which ones have less sugar content. I would say, US based wines have a lot of additives, including sugar. So drinking more Italian, French wines might be a better idea for you. Secondly, you want to really keep an idea of what your dose is. So for most people, you want to keep it under 2 to 1 drinks in a day. And you really want to limit the amount of time you're drinking in the week. So what I mean by that is limit your drinking to 1 or 2 days a week, 1 or 2 days a week of drinking. And if you drink more than that, you need to take more days off drinking as well. So say you have a week where you just had a really fun vacation week and you went out and you spent 4 days in a row drinking wine because you're on vacation. That's totally fine. I'm fine with that. But then take a week off of drinking completely. Don't go right back into a daily drinking routine, right? Last thing I would add is the binge drinking. A binge is defined as more than 4 drinks in a session. If you drink more than 4 drinks, you had a binge session, and then you have to take a week off of drinking completely after that. Make that your general rule, because that'll allow your liver enough time to kind of clear that alcohol, your brain cells clear the toxins that have built up from that drinking, et cetera. And, I think if you follow some kind of big picture, like rules around these kind of things, rather than trying to like totally eliminate it and make it almost like a non-achievable kind of a goal, I think you'll do a lot better with alcohol.
Those are great tips and suggestions. And I love that they're accessible for people that do choose to drink alcohol. Obviously, not everyone does, but
right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And I love that it's meeting people where they're at, because I do think when you say no alcohol, people really do struggle with that if they enjoy a drink every so often,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for both of you guys having clients of your own, and I know this for sure, like when you give people like absolutes, they will absolutely not do it, and they will absolutely stop talking to you about anything else, right?
Right.
So,
Totally.
because they feel like they've let you down, right?
100%.
Yes.
So for all the coaches that are out there listening to this, you got to meet people where they're at to maintain the relationship and guide them down this journey.
For sure. So Darshan, we are running out of time here, and we'll link up in the show notes where people can find you on nexthealth. Are you on social media? Are you on Instagram?
Yes. Yep, at Darshan Shah MD. Yep.
Okay, great.
That's my handle on all of it.
And one question we love to ask all of our guests is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I think making sure that every day I get at least 30 minutes of self-care in, no matter what, whether it's, if I have to skip my workout in the morning, I'll have a 30-minute wind down period at night where I get to meditate. If I can't even do that, then maybe halfway through the day, I'll go for a 30-minute walk. But you got to have this routine of spending at least 30 minutes on yourself on a day-to-day basis. And it's incredible to me the number of people that go days, weeks, months with zero self-care. And so just do 30 minutes a day. Start small, and that's living well.
I love that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been, for us, it's
amazing.
Like so amazing. We love it. And just the energy that you have and your passion for helping people and creating this community, like we said, and resources to make it more accessible for people to live a long, happy and prosperous and healthy life is wonderful. And we will, be in touch about, maybe you venturing and franchising something in Minnesota, because that would be pretty cool.
And
yeah.
we would love to come visit in LA.
Yes.
Like I think we're going to make that happen.
In January, when it's really cold here, we'll be there.
Yes. Open invitation for you and all your listeners. We'd love to have you guys. And thank you for spreading the word and doing the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day.
All right. You take care, guys.
You too.